Okay, let me start the show here and give it a couple of seconds here. Okay, we are live, everybody here. Me, Arknolia Stroke a Bean, and the mighty YR. This is Arknolia and the Doctor slash Music Maniacs. And tonight it's part two of our Big British Six series here. We're going to be taking a look at the big British bands that have influenced all of the rock genres out there, whether it's folk, rock and roll, heavy metal. And in this case, it's mostly heavy metal because the band we're going to be discussing probably had a massive influence on all the doom metal, thrash metal, you name it. These
Wait, are we
guys,
doing we're doing Led Zeppelin, right?
no, we're doing Black Sabbath. Remember,
Oh shit, let me change my title and shit. All right,
yeah,
never
yeah. I
mind.
was gonna say tonight we're doing Sabbath. I guess we're also doing Judas Priest, then Iron Maiden, then Motorhead, then Led Zeppelin. Okay, yeah,
In
little
that
boo boo
order?
there, and I believe so in that order. I think that's how we YR. I think you decided you came up with that idea. I think YR right last time.
Yes.
Yeah, we did. Okay, all right. So it's a boom. It's a go. All right there. But okay, now I'm gonna get to this here.
I want to pull
Let
up
me
this
go up.
Hetfield video too while you're doing that.
Okay, I'm gonna look up on the thing here.
Dang, I really thought we were doing fucking Led Zeppelin tonight.
That's
Aren't they
understandable.
earlier than Sabbath or no? At the same
Well,
time.
no,
Yeah, if you're
what?
going chronologically.
What yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. James. Yeah, they came out around the same time there, which is around 68, 69 there. Let me break down here. Break down on stage here. I'm looking up on Google Images. No, not
Fucking,
really Google. It's all there. Should be coming up soon there.
it was in front of
Okay.
60,000 people. They were saying, and it was
All right.
like in one of those Hispanic countries down there. You know, one of
Yeah,
those Latin
I see there.
countries or whatever. I
Yeah, where they're
believe. Go
massively
ahead and
huge.
read what it was.
Okay, let's give it a while to come right up there, but it's going to pop up right now on the. Give it a while because sometimes computers can be slow. This
Yeah.
was in Brazil here. Let me. It's coming up right here. So I had that stupid swirling thing going on. Okay, here's what. Dang, I wish they'd quit doing that. Okay, Metallica's James Hetfield got very emotional during the band's concert Thursday night in Brazil, admitting to the audience that he was feeling a little bit insecure prior to taking the stage. Before launching into the classic Sad But True at Estadio del Marino and blah, blah, blah. I cannot pronounce it. Remember, these foreign names are not that good. I'm not good with foreign names there. On May 12th, the 58-year-old Hetfield, hold up there. Son of a bitch. I hate when the things pop up. There we go. The 50-year-old Hetfield thanked the 60,000 plus people in attendance, saying that he and his bandmates are so blessed to have the support of such a loyal fan base. But then he added, quote, I gotta tell you, I wasn't feeling good before I came out here. I was feeling a little bit insecure, like I'm an old guy, I can't play anymore, all this bullshit that I tell myself in my head. So I talked to these guys and they helped me, as simple as that. They gave me a big hug and they said, if you're struggling on stage, we got your back. And I'll tell you, it means the world to me. At that point, all of James Hetfield's bandmates, Robert, Lars, and Kirk, approached the singer and once again gave him a heartfelt group hug, with Hetfield visibly touched by the gesture. He then again addressed the audience, telling them, and seeing you out there, I am not alone. I am not alone, and neither are you. All right. And we have a little post here from on Facebook from Edgar Bardadas. He said, posting this since a lot of people are sharing the pictures from Instagram, these should have a higher resolution here on Facebook. James Appreciation Post. As some of you may know, on the last show, James gave a little speech about not feeling well, getting old, feeling insecure about his playing, etc., which was shocking. To open up,
I'll play it.
show. Go ahead. All right, here's the Wire's got the old videotape of that. Okay, it was
He made a speech.
yeah. It should be coming up here. He showed his vulnerable side and spoke mental health like it was both sad but also good. Most of us spoke about how happy they were. Look,
Are you ready?
yeah. All right, I'm ready. Go ahead, dude.
And this is serious. Like, you can't, like, bro, this shit can happen to anyone. The mental illness, whatever he's having, whatever's going on. Like, bro, you can have all the money in the world. Like, James Hetfield, Metallica, millionaires, bro. Millionaires can have whatever they want, but they can be depressed. I mean, listen to this guy.
Section that our shows, especially in Brazil. It's amazing, isn't it? It's crazy.
Brazil.
Yep.
We are so blessed. So, I gotta tell you, I wasn't feeling very good before I came out here. Feeling a little bit insecure, like I'm an old guy, can't play anymore, all this bullshit that I tell myself in my head. So I talked to these guys and they helped me, as simple as that. They gave me a hug and said, hey, if you're struggling on stage, we got your back. And I tell you, it means the world to me.
Wow. Oh, wow. All the bandmates from the hug. Wow.
Yep.
Powerful moment. Powerful moment, folks.
Powerful moment is.
And seeing you out there, I am not alone. I am not alone, and neither are you. Let's prove it.
James Hetfield has been very transparent about his struggles in the past.
Wow. What do you think about that? So he was, you know what I'm saying?
He was feeling a little bit emotional there. Amazing. To me, a breakdown is when somebody really loses it, starts crying ballistically, starts screaming at the top of their voice there. I mean, we've seen that happen many times with this community, with Bullfrog, Tommy, Vikings recently a couple times. So basically, to me, that seems like a little bit of sometimes, you feel a little insecure. You feel like you're past your prime because of the age that you're getting in. Remember, he's 58 years old, 56. Wait a minute, 56, if I'm correct. And there's going to be moments where you feel like, I'm getting too old for this. Look at all these young kids out there. They're looking at me like an old man. But however, you got to remember, this old man is a part of a 4-piece band that influenced not only all the other bands that are out there, whether it's Avenged Sevenfold, whether it's bands like local or national, all these bands. I mean, you got to remember they had a massive influence, and consider that you're part of that influence to this very day. You're still carrying on. I mean, you battle a lot of issues there. You battle alcohol not once but twice. You survived the death of a bandmate years before, and you had issues with your other bass player there, doing the solo project behind other bands' backs there, which he spoke of in the past there.
Well, he was supposed to. What's his name? What's his name again?
Jason Newsted.
Yeah, Newsted. He was supposed to do that. He supposedly let out the secret about doing that Van Halen tour, blah blah blah, and then he was going to go on, like a couple weeks ago, like when it came out, he was going to go on Eddie Trunk's show and get the story straight, and then he declined, so fucked everything up like an asshole.
I see there.
But that one guy, the one guy that played that Mexican dude that plays bass for him now, he's pretty good. What's his name?
Robert Turturro.
Trujillo, yeah.
Trujillo, yes. Yeah, he is there. He definitely he's able to do Cliff Burton's anesthesia pulling teeth pretty damn well there.
And then, remember that Remember that in the 2000s when that Death Magnetic album came out? That was fucking pretty
Yes,
good for them.
it was. Yeah, they had some good songs like Cyanide, All Nightmare Long. By the way, if you ever find the video for that track there, definitely watch it. It is one tripped out video. None of the members appear in it, but it has all this crazy,
Yeah.
made footage. It is a trip to look at.
Yeah.
It is. I remember seeing it with my ex girlfriend years back when around 2008 when that record came out. It was like, holy cow, this is a trip. And of course, the only thing that the ex was talking about is how they are now appealing to the skateboarding kids out there, blah blah blah, all that stuff there. But then again, that's typical of her. She's been known to repeat herself countless of times on various subjects. So what the heck does she know? All right. So James Hetfield, felt a little bit emotional, and he got the support from all his bandmates and the crowd that they were playing in front of. And remember, they have a massive fan base everywhere they go. They're playing stadiums. They're playing massive festivals. They're kind of like in the league of Iron Maiden currently, playing the same amount of huge crowds.
Well, it's like a global band that everyone, they go to the Latin countries a lot, European tours.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bands, like Metallica, you can throw in, obviously like the Beatles, Kiss, some of those bands that are world renowned and tour the world. And Metallica is
one of those bands.
They're one of they're like, usually when it's regular touring and shit, they're usually like the top grossing band in live touring every year.
Yes, exactly.
That's a show that, I haven't gone to Metallica, but everyone says they kick it out of the park. You know what I'm saying? So it's, one of those things.
That's true there, yes. Absolutely. And give Metallica their credit. They were able to help, they did a lot of helping out for the fans as well there. Okay, I'm going to find this other article as well there. Okay, let me find it here. Hetfield pays for fan hospital such and such there, blah, blah, blah. Give it a while there. Okay. James Hetfield checked in on a Metallica fan who gave birth. Wait for the article to come up here. Blah, blah, blah.
Seen that. It was like a week ago. That's a good article.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to do it right now. And this was at a Brazil concert. Now, speaking with the Washington Post, Joyce M. That's how I'm able to pronounce. Okay, I know. It's like I know. It's like these names are damn hard to pronounce. She felt a mix of emotions after giving birth during a Metallica show. Now that's a trip right there. If you thought Metallica was hardcore, this girl, Joyce M., took the game to another level. The lady, who is a tattoo artist, was 39 weeks pregnant when she attended the Rock and Roll Hall of Famers show last Saturday, May 7th, at I cannot pronounce this again, but it's in the Brazilian state of Paraná. No, she didn't mosh or crowd surf, but she simply watched from the accessible area of the stadium and reportedly had a blast until a contraction shared soon after the headliners took the stage. The baby wanted out, and according to the new mom, made an appearance as Metallica wrapped their set with Enter Sandman. Juan, Luan, came into the world on May 7th, 2020, at about 23:15, shaking all the metalhead structures. She wrote on Instagram there. Now, mom and child are fine, possibly doing better thanks to a call from Metallica's James Hetfield. She captured the interaction on an Instagram story. They said, "This is James from Metallica. Congratulations, you guys. Oh my gosh, hi." That's what Joyce was heard saying. She was crying when she heard the news. Joyce told her Instagram followers that the chat lasted 7 minutes and that she had recorded. I have no more words to say. She felt a mix of emotions after this, since it was not planned. I was scared that the medical team would not be ready, but there's also the feeling of being able to tell people that this happened because Metallica is one of the bands we love the most. Now, according according to the veneered type, what again?
Didn't they name the baby Metallica or no?
I do not know. I mean, we're still reading the article. That would be interesting. No, it would be interesting. It would be interesting to name the baby Creepy Death. That's for sure. There, or enter the kid Sandman. Maybe we should, if it's a boy, name it Cliff. There you go. Joyce and her husband Jamie bought the tickets back in 2019, prior to the pandemic. The shows were scheduled for April 2020, but were pushed back because of the health crisis. The 6-day tour of South America rocks on Saturday, May 12th. U.S. dates follow May 27th at Bottle Rock, I meant to say, my bad, during Napa Valley Expo, and May 29th at Boston Calling. All right. And that a breakdown happened on that Saturday, if I'm correct, YR?
Yeah, it was like this weekend concert.
So a lot happened during Brazil, that's for sure there. All right. That's really interesting there. So congratulations to Joyce, the new mama of her Mighty Met baby there.
Well, it's like maybe it wasn't at the same concert because they probably play a lot of different shows in different cities.
Yeah, that's true.
It was both in the country of Brazil.
Yeah, that's true there, yeah. I'm thinking the same thing as well there. But it's kind of funny. We had a childbirth at the Metallica show, and a couple of nights later, a breakdown at a Metallica show. So it kind of seems so, but it's cool either way there.
But what does he have to, like, I guess, even if you're, how, I'm not trying to, like, compare him to, like, a woman, but, like, when women say, oh, I'm fat, but, like, you look at them and they're, like, not fat at all. So it must be something in, like, obviously a mental issue to where it's like, obviously he sings and plays like he always has been great, that good, that signature Metallica sound, signature Metallica voice, and sometimes you just feel you're not on your game, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I can't have anyone. That's what's messed up about it, So doesn't matter how rich you are or famous or good looking or talented, these mental blocks can get you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true there. It doesn't really matter, yeah. But for the record, James Hetfield, if you notice him as of late, he has gained some weight there. He's got a big bulge in his belly like Axl Rose has.
What's the anniversary? How many years have they been together?
Well, I think they've been together since 1981 or 82 there. And what the story was that they decided, hey, let's put together a band to be on this compilation record there. But the thing was, you had to get a band together first in order to do that.
They already did 40. I'm surprised they didn't do like a 40-year anniversary thing yet.
I think that may be coming up pretty soon there, if I'm correct.
Like they do. Obviously, like when they released that last album, Moth and Flame. Yeah. They tour behind that, play some songs with that. But they, like, if you go look at the videos, 2018, 2019, before the pandemic and shit, like they play all their hits. All the good songs. Master Puppets, Creeping Death, like all that shit too.
Oh yeah, people still want to hear those songs. Those songs are timeless, no matter what. But when you look at it, Metallica has pretty much done it all. They survived, stage incidents. They survived the death in their stable there. They went through alcohol issues. They went through a nasty feud with their ex-guitarist, Dave Mustaine, a couple times there.
That's like the best. Metallica's like the best American band ever. If you think about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's true there. Yes. I think the former editor of Rip magazine said it best. Lon E. Friend. That's his name. He said, They are the Led Zeppelin of this generation.
It's
And
like
who are we to disagree?
like people say like Aerosmith's like the Great American Band or whatever, right? Like
Or
not
Van Halen, they were saying that as well about those
like really
guys.
Metallica, bro. Like everyone knows a Metallica song. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't think Aerosmith is as global as Metallica.
Um,
I mean, they they're I think they're like known like like a U2 or something, but like
mhm.
Metallica fans like it's a whole different. I mean, it's obviously two different types of music, like a heavy metal compared to a classic rock with Aerosmith. But I'm saying like great. I don't want to say like great American band, but just one of those good hard American band. Like Metallica is at the forefront for that, honestly.
That's true. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people often say that Metallica are like classical music in terms of the tempo changes in their songs. Like the early stuff like Leper Messiah, um, Dyer's Eve, all these other, like Eye of the Beholder, for example, there.
We're gonna have to get into Metallica show one of these days this summer.
One of these days, yes.
We gotta talk
If
about
we're able,
that.
if we're able to afford it, there, you got to remember, tickets prices are way through the
No, I'm
fucking
saying
roof.
we got to do a show like talking about
Oh,
Metallica
I see. My bad. Yeah, we got to definitely talk
because
about
we
that.
are
We
here
Definitely.
to
almost
talk
have
about.
tonight.
We're here to
All
talk
right.
about great Black Sabbath tonight, and
Absolutely. One of the bands that influenced Metallica, to be exact, there.
I want to pick your
What's-
brain on the once you get going here. I want to pick your brains, really dive into like the whole demonic issues people were having with the group back then to really highlight
Oh
that.
man, that's one of that. Yeah, that's a big thing. Well, first and foremost, everybody knows they never were devil worshippers. They never were into anything satanic. They were not into the occult. The name was taken from a movie of the same name, which came out in 1963, that starred Boris Karloff. Now, the movie was kind of like a more darker version of the Twilight Zone. Boris Karloff was not only the narrator, but he was also the star of the final story there of a vampire who only feeds from the ones they love, you know. And apparently, what the story was that the guys were sitting in this loft out there, relaxing, and they noticed they saw the movie ad, and Tony was like, isn't it funny that people pay good money to see a movie that's going to scare them? Maybe we should try that approach, scare them through music.
So like at that time, what year was this? About late '60s.
I think so. The later a part of the '60s there, because
So like really, there were
Yeah.
really like at that time, like these are the creators, godfathers of heavy metal.
yeah,
Now, obviously, like bands like Priest
Yep.
took that really, because I personally like. I don't know. It's a way different sound. Like Judas Priest heavy metal and the fucking Sabbath heavy metal. It's a whole different. You know what I mean? But it's still
Yeah.
considered heavy metal now. I think Priest is a little bit harder than Sabbath, personally. A little bit.
Yeah.
They rock a little bit harder. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Especially in the '80s and shit. But the deal is here that why Black Sabbath is such a big deal is they. I mean, you think of all the other quote unquote classic rock in the 60s, early 70s, your Doors, stuff like that. I mean, the sound that Sabbath had, it was just that real hard rock. I mean, they birthed a genre.
It was raw. It was raw. It was powerful. It was raw. It was straightforward, in your face, plain and simple. And they had a lot of good reason. Apparently, the Birmingham, England that they grew up in was dirty, it was polluted, there was a lot of gang violence. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne grew up in a poverty house there where there was apparently no toilet.
What part of what's the exact like the city he was in over there? Does anyone?
I think it was there was somewhere near the Birmingham area, but the Birmingham,
Real deep, small, like because of the way he talks and stuff. You can barely, but that's just how they talk. You know what I'm saying? It's just like that really deep English. Like it's different, you know what I'm saying?
well, yeah, well, that's true there. But then again, I guess as years go by, your speech kind of does, go kind of turns a different direction at times there. But then again, knowing Ozzy, how many drugs he did in the past, it probably messed up his speech there because people still say today that, he sings great, but they don't understand the fucking word he says. I mean, you listen to it, try to hear him a couple times on the Osbournes TV show. He was up in there was a top 40 station that had a little contest. You could win tickets. You could figure out what Ozzy is saying there in this segment here. Because a lot of times, you couldn't even understand what he was talking about for crying out loud, But then again, Ozzy was drinking a lot of that time where that show was being filmed. They just didn't show that on the show there. In fact, it got to the point where Sharon had to walk out, had to leave the house for a couple of days because of Ozzy's intense drinking, And,
well, we do dive into, there's a lot here, obviously. Up till now, are we talking Black Sabbath, the Ozzy years, or Ronnie James Dio years as well?
We're talking all of Sabbath. We're talking the Ozzy, Ronnie James Dio, Ian Gillan, Tony Martin, that half a tour and the album they did with Glenn Hughes, the late Ray Gillan, and of course, Sabbath had a lot of changes when you think about it there.
Well, did y'all want to go through each album and talk about that as well?
Yes, I'm going to try and do that there because, there was a lot. They put out a lot, definitely.
Let's do that because we started a little bit early here, so we have some good time.
Absolutely.
Well, now, you want to start at the beginning,
Yeah, let's start with the beginning with the first album titled Black Sabbath. It came out in 1970. It turned 50 years. I guess it's about 50 plus years old there. Yeah. I remember it did when I was called on JB's show there to do that Dummy World Series with Tommy, which I won. I said that there before I left. Happy anniversary to Black Sabbath's first album. Yeah. That kind of threw some people off there, but especially Tommy, because I know he doesn't listen to Black Sabbath, which he should. But
I don't even think he listens to music, man.
I know that's true. I don't know. I have to ask him if I'm on the call and he pops in on Ken's program. I'll definitely ask him. Probably get him to come on the show there if he is available at times.
He'll never get on here.
I know. Who knows? He probably. Anyway. Sabbath, as you know, started out as Earth. It was a Tony Iommi on guitar, Geezer Butler on bass, Bill Ward on drums, and Ozzy Osbourne on vocals. They did a couple demos as Earth, my bad. Mm-hmm. One of the songs I remember hearing was a piece called The Rebel, which had a piano in it. Kind of like a more jolly type of stuff there. And after discovering, people, like to getting scared through watching movies, like I mentioned earlier, the movie Black Sabbath, they decided to change their name to Black Sabbath. They do a lot more other shows. They get signed to a record label in the UK called Vertical. They also get signed to a label called Warner Brothers here in the States. The first album comes out in 1970, The UK version of that album had a gatefold which featured an inverted cross, a cross upside down, which means in support of Satan and stuff. Also featured this a piece of a dark story about everything dead, birds with the broken wings and such. Kind of disturbing to read when you think about it there, but it kind of fit the mood of the whole album there. I remember I was telling Ark a lot of times I was so entranced by the atmosphere of that album, the songs, the way the songs were played, the production, how they were all rearranged. I remember I had this notion of going to our old garage when we was in Roseville with my guitar and an amplifier, and it had just got done raining. And there was water on the floor, and here I was playing my guitar, electric guitar, when there was water on the ground. Exactly. I actually did that a couple times.
That's dangerous.
It was dangerous. I did a lot of crazy, dangerous shit around that period there. I was riding my bike along the shoulders of when 696 crossed over into I-94. Way years, and this was years before 696 was officially open, which was in 1989. But one time I was walking there by myself, and patrol cop car, saw me, pulled over, but said, "What are you doing out here by yourself?" So he took me back to the house that we were living in. And he kept saying, "You're not in trouble. You're not in trouble, but we don't need you getting almost." They didn't want me getting hit by a car going how many miles an hour either way there, because you can never tell nowadays with the way people drive. But anyways, I was entranced by the sound of that first album there. And I remember hearing it. I borrowed it from a neighbor of ours. He had the cassette over. And later on, I found it on vinyl at a thrift store or a used record place like Record Time or a Music Stop, Record Stop, or Car City Records there. I just, picked it up on vinyl. I listened to it. And I was like beyond pleased with it. Now, years later, I would later on, I would also get into Ozzy Osbourne's solo at work as well there. I remember I bought Diary of a Madman for about $5 from one of our other neighbors there.
Which one do you like better, Blizzard of Oz or Diary? Which record?
Diary of a Madman, because that album suited well. I was, after listening to that record, I went out for a bike ride. It was just got done raining. I was looking at the mist around one of the overlights that hang over the freeways there. I remember because we lived right next to I-94 there at that time.
Don't dox yourself.
It was like, wow, I know. Well, I'm not doxing myself. I'm just doxing the area that we were part of. I'll let them figure out which part of I-94 that we live nearby.
What did you like better, Blizzard of Oz or Diary of a Madman? I'm with Brown's choice. Like, Diary has some damn good songs on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Diary. Ow.
So
I like Blizzard's cover better. I think
that's
better, but
that's iconic as well. There, I think there's kind of a 3D version of that. I don't know if those Funko Pop figures that they come out with.
Yes,
they should come out with duplicate album covers of various. They did this with the first Black Sabbath album, believe it or not. Now they should also do it with Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz just as well. There.
Oh, like that album cover?
Yeah, absolutely. They did it with. I would also like to see him do it with the first Ramones album just as well. There. That would be most unique. I would definitely pay money for that, But, on to the discussion. But I went to another garage sale. We found the Paranoid album, which, by the way, was originally supposed to have been called War Pigs, knowing the guy jumping out from behind a tree with a helmet, shield, and sword, ready to attack. But the record company thought it was a little bit too touchy at times, so they decided to change it to Paranoid. Paranoid came about at the last minute because they needed a song to fully complete the album, and it went on to become one of their biggest signature songs ever, next to the other songs from that record. War Pigs, Iron Man.
Iron Man is the biggest, most popular song, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. It's been covered by so many times. It's been made into a Christmas anthem. I am Santa Claus. You remember that one there?
Nah, I never.
I heard it one time, but I remember Ark mentioned it a couple of times when we were talking about doing our comedy reviews.
Listen, this is why. Because, so probably a couple of years ago, I gave Maiden, Sabbath, Priest, full-fledged attention. I listened to a lot of their shit.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, which I obviously respect all of them, Priest is the one that stood out. So that's always going to be my opinion on this whole type of music and, the British big fives and big fours and everything.
Yeah.
But Sabbath, Ozzy frontman, like all that craziness, like he, you got to give that the respect too. You got to give respect to, we have to mention basically these molded fingertips that
Yeah, the big fingertips that Tony Iommi wears on his right hand, because everybody knows it now. When he was a teenager, I think about 17 or 18, prior to leaving to be a part of some other band going on tour, Iommi's working at some sort of machine shop there.
Yeah, metal factory, bro, for
Metal
real.
factory, yes. It was supposed to. It was. Guess the blade was supposed to come down hard and cut these, metal sheets apart, and his fingers were in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and cut up the tips of those fingers there, which of course, as you know, it's going to hurt like bloody hell, as you know. So Iommi tried to play guitar despite all that, but he was having a lot of issues. It took him a long while to relearn the damn thing there. Somebody gave him, during that time, a record by Django Reinhardt. Now, as you know, this is the guitar player who had to play with the two first fingers of his left hand, the index and the middle finger. The other two was severely damaged. It's a sort of accident when he was a kid. But he was able to play that damn good there. Look up any video of his on YouTube, and you see what I'm talking about. And that kind of inspired Iommi to pick up the guitar again, but this time come up with these fake tips that he puts on the ends of those two fingers there to make up for the length.
And a couple things here. They always called him basically the riff master.
He was, because he came up with some damn good riffs there.
Like, he always played another thing real quick. We need to dive more into the riff thing because we need to explain to the people what a riff is and all that. But like, he always played a Gibson SG guitar, the same guitar that Young plays.
Yep.
Not a lot of a lot of people back then played a Gibson Les Paul or the Stratocaster, really, but the SG. I always thought the SG
or other guitars as well there.
Well, no, but I mean, mostly if you look back, I mean, I see more. I see more Gibson Les Pauls. Like a lot of people have those. I mean, but then I see a lot of people using Stratocasters too.
Yeah,
during the early times, obviously in the '80s, you had Kramers and all that shit. So people had different,
BBC Rich,
like really.
Hammer.
So when you see this SG guitar, it looks cool. It always looked cool. You know what I'm saying? Played hard, and he always used that guitar. Now, back to the riff master thing. What would you consider? Like, what would you explain to people what a riff is? Like, in your opinion?
A riff is a little guitar, because it's kind of something like this.
It's almost like a beat, but for guitars, right? Like thinking rap.
Something like that, yeah. So a couple chords put together to begin the song there, or what?
First, right now, like, can you show us?
Like there. Yeah, I know you may not be able to hear, but of course I did the opening chords to Paranoid there, and of course that's basically there was starting riff right there. Now there's other riffs like da 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 da, like Welcome to the Jungle, or the beginning of basically from Sad But True there. But the riff,
like the Trooper, Iron Maiden. Yeah,
that's more like a harmonic riff there.
So, I mean, this guy, you know what I'm saying, Tony Iommi, he does have, they call him the Riff Master because he has a lot of them, and he has ones that aren't even, because he goes on that Eddie Trunk show a lot, Eddie interviews him. Kurt, I mean, I think the last one was, 4 or 5 months ago. And he said he has thousands of riffs that aren't even public, type of thing.
Yeah, he has a lot of them. I guess he has a lot of demos or like cassettes and stuff like that. I remember him when him and Cozy Powell got together in '88 there. I guess they had a lot of cassette tapes of different riffs, the Rich to use, to pick out from there. In fact, believe it or not, Ozzy said in an interview one time that Him and the Sabs would get stoned, spend all day jamming on stuff there, have tapes recording for God knows how long. Then they would sit down, listen to the pieces, and puzzle them all together. Like that's how it's pretty much explains why song tracks like Cornucopia, Under the Sun, Wheels of Confusion had different tempos in them as well. There.
Now, back then, I heard this clip of Ozzy, and he said back then the group they smoked copious, lots of amounts of cannabis.
There.
Like lots. They were, and I mean that's a lot of people did that back then or whatever. But Sabbath was, deep into that, and obviously that kind of
they were deep into other drugs as well. There. I mean, it's no secret there that even Geezer even admitted that they snorted heroin, not injected. Yeah. He said that in an interview. The liner notes of the Reunion album. That live album came out in 1998. They also did cocaine just as well. I mean, they were basically kids in a candy store when you think about it. I mean, they had all this good stuff there, and they would get so wasted, so stoned, But the problem with that is that you're not keeping track on your financial situation. You're not keeping track on your management practices there. And that later on turned into a big battle with their management later on down the line. Apparently, the managers were owning everything in their cars, the places that they lived, such and such. And basically, to this day, Iommi says, don't sign any contract without reading it carefully. Contact a lawyer, talk to friends, talk to your bandmates. Don't sign anything until you get the full scale on everything, because there's always that one clause that's going to get you in the end. You're going to get promised lots of money, but you will not own the rights of your recordings. The recordings go to either the management or the record label there, which explains why the first album got released many times on different sorts of labels like it did. All right.
When was the first time you got exposed to Black Sabbath? Do you remember, if you went to a record store, if you heard it on the radio, if someone gave you a record?
It was a recommendation 6970 in that range.
Jesus. So right at the beginning.
Yep.
Dang.
Nice.
What do you think about, at the time, this new sound of heavy metal? Was it too much for you, or were you
No.
You're down for it?
I was okay with it.
Yeah, it was like a new thing at that time. And it kind of when you think about it.
Everything else is poppy, softer. What was the closest?
There was other stuff that was, not hard, but that was rocking, but it wasn't.
You're right, Steve.
Stones.
You had
Steppenwolf coming out. Yep.
Yeah.
Blue Cheer.
Yep.
I mean, there was stuff out
Cream
there.
Cream as well there, but
Cream,
Sabbath took.
Deep Purple.
Yep. But then again, Sabbath had this darkness to it, and they had a lot to say. They were basically with bands like Priest. They were talking about, hey, this is the world that we're living in right now. Never mind all the hippie dippies, all that stuff there. This is where we came from. See what it's like in our neck of the woods, Basically the same thing that rappers like Ice-T and NWA were talking about in their songs. And in
yeah.
Yeah.
Because, even Priest, they talk about, back in homeland over there, England and stuff, the old country, the factories, and the metal buildings and all that. So, metal, birthplace, I mean, it's
absolutely.
all really the greatest music were done by, people from over there, if you think about it. Beatles, they weren't from here. You know what I'm saying?
No, they weren't there. They were from Liverpool. They started in Liverpool, obviously, but they went through tough times like every other band did. Remember, they had to bust their balls over in Germany, to get themselves.
That's crazy. All the great iconic bands were really, Led Zeppelin, fucking, they were all from England and stuff. They weren't. They
Yeah.
weren't. You know.
Well, give England their
Obviously,
due
like
because
Motown was a thing in America, but you know,
Detroit.
it really it's very interesting to think about. Like, wow,
Also, keep in mind that England has been known to be a lot more powerfully creativity. They have a lot more powerful creativity than what we have here in the States. Hence, all the bands that would come out of England, regardless of what genre, whether it's hip hop, well, not really hip hop, it was more like soul, like that Jamiroquai. They kind of borrowed from these 1970s funk scene, you know, um, Black Sabbath and Priest with their hard sound, Iron Maiden as well. Thin Lizzy, well, Thin Lizzy's more Irish when you think about it, but they're
Yo, can
like,
we get a?
yeah,
I would still put them in the. Can we get like a top 3 favorite Black Sabbath songs we could think about? And we can
well,
give that answer in the next 15, 20 minutes, maybe. Can y'all?
okay, absolutely, we could do that. And I'm
Just
not
like
going to,
3,
go ahead,
something.
yeah. All
Go
right,
ahead.
there. Let me start with mine there.
Oh,
My
you already.
number, oh, yes. My number 3 would have to be A Natural Acrobat from Sabbath Bloody Sabbath there. The second would be Lord of This World, which I was my song to Kwame Kilpatrick, the
Oh, I
former
love that
mayor of
song.
Detroit. I mentioned that his
Oh,
name a
I
couple
love that
times
song.
there. What a douchewad he was.
Yeah.
And of course, number 1 have to be the song Black Sabbath, which, by the way, was inspired by a paranormal encounter that Geezer had. The story was that Ozzy stole this book of black magic, and Geezer had it in his place that he lived in. He had it in a cupboard. He went to bed, woke up, and saw this black shadowy figure at the edge of his bed. He went to the cupboard to get rid of that book, and the book was missing. And Geezer, who grew up Catholic, said that shit scared him senselessly. So you can imagine how he felt when
Right.
he saw that inverted cross in the gatefold of the first album, which, well, as we all know, was not the band's idea. Apparently, the record label came up with these ideas to have all this black magic, stigmas along with it, along with the merchandise makers and stuff. Probably because of the
That would
name.
suck.
Because Black Sabbath and the name Black Sabbath kind of like had a demonic ring to it. So all the manufacturers out there kind of like bought into that there, as long as the record label. And the
It would
managers did
suck.
like it.
Like,
No, go ahead.
it's like Ozzy's probably never gonna do a live concert ever again. Like, no one's ever probably gonna see him live again. But when they did that like last show, like I forgot what year it was.
2017 when he did their the end tour there.
Why didn't we? Why didn't we go to that? Like, what were we doing with our fucking selves?
I don't know. I
That's
was.
YouTube, and that shit was fucking rocking, dude. That shit was. Oh,
It would have been a lot more better if they had Bill Ward on that tour.
no,
Because
that's the
remember,
only thing.
Bill Ward was one of those he was kind of like outcasted with that tour because of
God, he was. It
either.
was like something about money or something, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Something about the contract, and I guess money always seems to divide a lot of things there. I don't know if Bill Ward was going to get screwed in the end or whichever there, but still, it would have been better if Bill Ward was involved because he was the guy who got convinced Tony Iommi to get together with Ozzy Osbourne because Ozzy and Tony did not see eye to eye in high school. They would beat the crap out of each other whenever they saw each other.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And Iommi in an interview that no, he was like, no, I used to beat up an Ozzy back in high school, but Bill was like, no, come on, give it a shot there. So they got together, started playing there, and blah blah blah. The chemistry was right on dot with those guys. So there we go.
Now, did y'all ever see Black Sabbath in concert or Ozzy?
I I I did see Ozzy only one time back in 2007 when they had the free Ozfest. One of the guys told me about it. It was on a Sunday. It was at the DTE, we're formerly known as when it was called the DTE. We went in there, we saw Static X, Lamb of God, a couple other bands there as well. This band called Lordy, which dresses like a more demented version of Gwar. When you think about it, and they had one of their songs was "Bringing Back the Balls to Rock," that kind of stuff there, and it was a pretty good event there. We left during the Ozzy about 3/4 after into the Ozzy show to avoid heavy traffic there, and we were talking about on the next day at work there how we had a great time we had there.
It's something I do. That's okay. So, quick sidebar. I'll do that for sports, but that's something I don't do at a concert is leave early.
Yeah,
you got like it's different. Like, 'cause you can listen to the score on the radio on the way, like with the game, But a concert, I don't know, it hits like music hits different than me with sport. Like I like them both, passionate, blah blah blah. But like music, gets people through stuff, and it's different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true
Sports
there. But then again, but then again, it was not my decision.
Well, you should have said no. It's fucking Ozzy. What are you doing? No,
what the guy?
It was crowded though. It was crowded for real.
It was pretty crowded. It was free, and that was sadly the last free Ozfest tour. I don't know if it basically what it was is that possibly having it free kind of did something to the budget costs or something like that. But soon afterwards, all the Ozfest will take place on like a festival, like one day or over the weekend and such. So I'm thinking possibly that may have done something to the I'm not too sure how the whole thing went down, but it was the very last Ozfest tour to date. Either way there. Now, the only time I saw Sabbath was back in 1983 at the Cobo Arena when Ian Gillan was their frontman, and they had the drummer of ELO, Bev Bevan, filling in for Bill Ward there.
Well, how much was that damn ticket?
I think it was back then the tickets were about $17 or $18.
Wow.
Exactly. That's all. When my sister told me about the tickets for the Iron Maiden show that I saw in 2019, it was about $140 something. I'm like, what? Damn. I was like, the shit went up. And when I also heard of how much you paid to see Priest, I was like, holy shit, dog.
Yeah, but that's worth it. I would have paid.
Yeah, it is true, there. I think about it. Some things are worth the price you pay there. Now, Sabbath, of course, would have achieved success with Paranoid, with the main songs that we all know there. And probably one of the best songs ever on that record had to be Hand of Doom, because that was one of the best anti-drug songs ever.
Yes.
Absolutely. You listen to the lyrics and you send that song to anybody out there who was shooting up with heroin or snorting cocaine, send it to them and see, hopefully they pick up the message of that song there. Now, Master of Reality would come out soon afterwards, and this was where they started detuning their instruments. Instead of an open E, it would go down to an open D. And basically that was done to make the playing easier for Tony, because you remember when the strings are tuned down, they're a lot more looser and easier to grip because of the tips of his fingers. And plus he wanted to go a lot more heavier, in which they did pretty well. And it's oddly interesting that record would influence many of the grunge rock alternative scene around the early 1990s. Remember, Soundgarden did their version of the last track of that record, Into the Void, but they replaced the original lyrics with a new lyrics taken from a speech from Chief Stealth. Chief Stealth, which is a name for Seattle. Chief Seattle. Know what I mean? So that record also will include Sweet Leaf, one of the greatest cannabis songs known to mankind. Whenever
Yeah.
people talking about smoking weed on whichever show, whether it's Joe or a Farmhouse, that song always comes to mind there. And plus, probably to me, was probably one of the most pro God songs out there. Pro
Yeah.
Christianity after forever. A couple of pastors were reviewing that song and they were describing the song's lyrical content in its full max, you know. And that was basically written to prove to the world that, hey, we are not devil worshippers. We do not believe in black magic. The only thing we ever come to black magic would be a box of chocolates. But sadly, all these parents and Christian activists and were not really having it because of all the imagery that was basically done by the record label and the management. Remember, the controversy creates cash, theory was going on back then as well there. Of course, Volume 4 would come out soon afterwards, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath soon after with that controversial album cover. Look it up and you see what I'm talking about. I remember when my mom saw that, it was like when I brought that home from the record store, it's like, oh my gosh, like that album cover got condemned left and right by the Christian fundamentalists there. Sabotage came soon afterwards. That's probably be one of their angriest records because at that time the band had realized they were getting ripped off left and right by their management, and there was a lot of legal issues going on there. A year and a half later, well, not necessarily a year later, they would put out a greatest hits album that was not their idea. They didn't make no money off of that, according to band members. Inside Technical Ecstasy followed in 1976, and on this record, they kind of like got away from the black magic stigma. They went towards a more hard rocker version there, kind of like some of the vein of Aerosmith and other bands out there. That basically was recorded in Miami. And one of the tracks there, All Moving Parts Stand Still, kind of like it's a ditty about a transvestite becoming president of the United States of America. Dirty Women was inspired by the hookers that Geezer saw on walking the street corners. Rock and Roll Doctor is one of my personal favorites from them as well there. Now, a couple years later, they would release their final record with Ozzy, recorded in Toronto, Canada, Never Say Die. For I understand, it was cold as hell when they entered the theater that they went in there to write the album and record it there. Apparently, that album kind of like got the same lukewarm reception from fans as it did with the previous one because it went the same route as it did with the previous one there. They would go on tour with Van Halen as their opening act, and rumor has it that Van Halen was doing better than Black Sabbath. It was detailed a lot of times in the record books there and a couple of stories there. Following year, Ozzy would get fired from Sabbath because he was doing way too many drugs, way becoming too incoherent, and way hard to deal with. A year later, they would get together with a guy named Ronnie James Dio, who left Rainbow a year before. They would record Heaven and Hell, which became a massive, successful album and gave us the title track, which is still played on the radio to this damn day. The next year, they would release Mob Rules, which I liked out of the two because it was a lot more harsher produced. It was a lot more heavier than Heaven and Hell. I mean, my favorite from that record still remains The Sign of the Southern Cross. And, of course, the title cut as well, Slipping Away, Falling Off the Edge of the World, Country Girl. A year later, they would release their live album called Live Evil. And the story about that record was that, there was a story that each member of the group was sneaking into the studio, mixing their parts louder than the others, like making Geezer's bass sound louder than Tony's guitar. And apparently Dio got into a hustle with Geezer and Tony there whereas the two accused him of messing with the mixing of that album. As a result, Dio would walk away from Sabbath. Vinny Appice, who was their drummer at the time, would walk with him. They would put together their band Dio, record Holy Diver, The Last in Line, Dream Evil, Sacred Heart, and a bunch of other albums. The band would recruit Ian Gillan from Deep Purple, who was not at Deep Purple at that time. The band was already done. The story was that Geezer, Iommi met up with Gillan. They started drinking. The next morning, Ian Gillan gets a phone call from his agent and saying, hey, you got to come up to do something fast because last night you joined Black Sabbath. And Gillan's like, I did? So they went into the place called the Manor. They would record what would be Born Again. A lot of crazy stories from that occurred. The opening song Trash came about a car wreck that Gillan had while driving Bill Ward's car. Apparently was drinking and driving at that time. The guys would head out on tour, but without Bill Ward. He was going through some health issues. So they get the van on the drums there from ELO. They would do that tour there. And by the way, here's something else. It had this massive Stonehenge stage set up. And a lot of times they complained that it was hard to get the setup through the doors of the venues that they were playing at times. It was considered a nightmare to work with. So the movie Spinal Tap, which came out a year later, spoofed that whole scenario. Instead of a massive Stonehenge set, they had come up with this little miniature Stonehenge set. If you ever saw the movie, you know what I'm talking about. A couple years later, the original Sabbath would reunite at Live Aid in July of 1985. That was one of the big moments for me. I didn't expect that. I was like, yay, yeah. I was enjoying the shit out of that. Other reunions would include Led Zeppelin, The Who, and Queen's awesome performance in Wembley. Remember, this was at two venues, Philadelphia and in London, on the same day there, to end world hunger. Geezer decides, to walk away from Sabbath, saying there's only two singers that matter in Sabbath. That'd be Ozzy and Dio. Ian Gillan was good, but it really wasn't Sabbath. Leaving Iommi by himself there, he decides to record a solo record, but the company convinced him to make it a Sabbath record. Who could tell the difference? Basically, everybody else knew. And the record, 7-star, failed miserably as a result. It was titled Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi on the label there. And everyone, including Ozzy and Dio, came out against this approach, saying it's not really Sabbath. You're dragging it through a pile of shit, through a pile of mud. Glenn Hughes would be let go from the tour because he slurred his words on a gig in Detroit, which one of my neighbors went and saw and described it as a bullshit performance there.
What?
Yeah, it was. It's on the record, but it's been mentioned many times in the Sabbath story. Glenn Hughes fucked up the lyrics and forgot which song it was, either War Pigs or the song Black Sabbath. Even my old friend who saw the show, he was like, the show sucked. It wasn't what it used to be, man. Come on, give me a break. It's like, can you believe this? The singer fucked up the song on stage. I'm like, we know the song is like the back of our hand. Why couldn't this guy there? But then again, Glenn Hughes was going through some substance issues himself there at the time. And as he said, he had to be let go to make room for Ray Gillan, who would finish the tour, do some demos with Iommi, which sadly never made it. So they got this new guy on this thing named Tony Martin. And Martin would go on to stay with them for the next couple albums, like Headless Cross in 1989, another great record from them. Tyr, spelled Tyr, an album about Nordic mythology, something to play while you're watching the show Vikings, most definitely. Then they get back together with Ronnie James Dio and Vinny Appice. After Dio invited Geezer to play on stage with him with his gigs there, Dio realizes, I forgot how much I enjoyed playing with this guy. So they reconciled. They sat down in the big chair, and whatever issues they had in the past with this person had to be let out right there on that meeting there, which was a great idea because that way you don't let shit build up and then let things implode in the very end.
Oh,
It's best to have that therapy meeting now and then.
oh.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't a 80s era of Black Sabbath because Ozzy did his solo stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The Sabbath at that time were going through this personal lineup change, that person changed. I mean, like, you look at the credit list of the Eternal Idol from 1987, which I did not like, by the way. Yeah, it just felt blah. The songs were kind of blah. I mean, like, Glory Ride, The Shining were good songs there. Hard Road to Love was a good song, but it wasn't really that up to par. I mean, how can you call it Black Sabbath when it's the credit list, the player, Tony Iommi, other players, Bev Van, Jeff Klicksman, this bass player, that bass player, Tony Martin on singer, this person on keyboards, And by the way, rest in peace to Jeff Nichols, who played keyboards with Sabbath starting from 1980 there. He passed away in 2017. He did some phenomenal work with them on their records there. And anyways, after the Dio got back together with Sabbath there with Vinny Appice, they would record Dehumanizer, another kick-ass album, Computer God, Too Late, Master of Insanity. The song Time Machine would be featured in Wayne's World that year.
Yeah.
Then at the same time, Ozzy Osbourne announced he's doing his No More Tours tour. He was going to say goodbye to the road there, concentrate on his family and everything. But actually what it was is that he was misdiagnosed with multiple sclerosis. The record label said to Sharon and Ozzy, get a second opinion. And which they did. They found out he doesn't have multiple sclerosis. It was misdiagnosed. So all that was basically for nothing. But you know how some doctors are. They're a bunch of dipshits, at times there. So Ozzy invites Sabbath to play with those two last shows in Costa Mesa, California. Dio declines to participate because he was angry at Ozzy for the things that Ozzy had said about him when Dio came into Sabbath there. And we talked about that a couple of times. Ozzy calling Dio a fucking gnome, calling the Sabbath Blackmore Sabbath and such there. Dio says, I'm out. I'm not going to do it. Get somebody else. Rob Halford, who was supposedly at that time left Judas Priest, came into the mix. He took over the spot. They did some good shows together. And in fact, one of those, yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, Rob Halford filled in for Black Sabbath on 2 shows there.
When?
1992, Costa Mesa, California. It was on the 2 final gigs of Ozzy Osbourne's No More.
And he sang fucking Sabbath songs?
Yeah, he did.
Whoa, I gotta look. I wonder if someone.
Yeah, look it up. Rob Halford, Black Sabbath, 1992. The whole complete set is right there. It's about an hour. They were opening for their former frontman. think of it there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Right there. While I was doing that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely, it was. Halford at that time, had supposedly had walked away from Judas Priest. There was a whole bunch of issues going on with him and his band.
Things in hell too. Oh,
yep, they did. Yep. Neon Nights, Sweet Leaf, Children of the Sea, Into the Void, NIB. They were doing all those songs.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
It just blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
this will be like, this is like if, I mean, really, it's like when Axl Rose covered for
ACDC.
Brian
Brian
Johnson.
Johnson and ACDC, yeah, but a couple years back. And keep in mind, Rob Halford filled in for Ozzy Osbourne in 2004 when he was having when he was really sick there. So Halford, credit to him, filled in for Sabbath not once but twice. First for Ronnie James Dio, and the second for Ozzy Osbourne. So another reason to love Rob Halford. And he credits Black Sabbath as being one of the first heavy metal bands to come out of England. He said that on the VH1 program called The List. You may remember that show years ago there. Now, Sabbath would go back to the Headless Cross lineup soon. Well, not necessarily, not yet. Geezer would remain for one album called Cross Purposes. They would get Tony Martin back in the band with Bobby Rodinelli, formerly of Rainbow, on drums. They would do a tour there in support of that album. And I remember they were playing the State Theater. Rumored had circulated that the original Sabbath was going to get back together to do a tour and an album, but Ozzy opted out because of personal issues he was having with his wife and manager Sharon at that time there. So they hold that off while Sabbath, when it got, as I mentioned, Martin back to the band, they released Cross Purposes, do a show at the State Theater, which is a very small venue compared to the Palace of Auburn Hills, which they would play years on down the line, and when they get back together with Bill Ward and Ozzy. The following year, they would put out Forbidden, which was produced by Ernie C. from Ice-T's Body Count. In fact, Ice-T makes an appearance on the opening track, The Illusion of Power. And then that was it, for a long while, up until about 1997 on the second Ozfest tour when Ozzy gets together with Geezer Butler and Tony Iommi, minus Bill Ward, to do Black Sabbath once again. Bill Ward was not invited to participate for some oddball reason. Ward had just released a solo record. Go ahead.
Now, you know what it was?
No. What it was? It was for money, yeah. Well, that was back in 1997. This was in...
Talking about the recent one. It was because he couldn't, like... He wasn't. It was like he wasn't physically able. Like it was hard for him to tour and shit. That's why they got that guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Was it Taylor Hawkins?
No, it was somebody else. Perhaps somebody. I don't know the guy's name, but it was not Taylor Hawkins for sure because Hawkins had blonde hair. This guy had a lot longer hair. It was curly, and he wore a bandana when he played.
Wait, he looked like a younger Bill Ward, though, right?
Something like that. He looked
beard.
Something like. So yes, a little. So he basically looked like one of those hipster rockers today that you often see on the magazines and on the streaming services, on the YouTube and such. There.
Why didn't you go to that show?
Now I don't know. I'm still wondering why, but probably because at that time I was struggling at that time back in Detroit when they was touring there, and I wasn't able to see them when I moved here to Texas. What?
Yes, hello.
What? Oh, there are.
What it is really? If you don't look, you don't know. Like it ain't like I mean, sometimes they have commercials on TV that says, "Oh, blah blah blah," but like, bro, like an Ace Frehley or whatever, they're not gonna have a commercial for Ace Frehley coming to a concert. Like you have to really go. You have to search and look and to find concerts. That's the problem. Like, maybe you missed out. Maybe you didn't know.
Yeah, that's true. Because I wasn't aware of some of the venues in Houston like I do now.
You gotta know, like, you really, that's what I do. Like, I check all the time about, like, concerts, who's coming, blah, 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 smaller venues, whatever, bigger venues.
Yeah.
Obviously, the ones in the bigger venues get more publicity, blah, blah, blah. But then I'd be listening to Eddie Trunk, he'd be saying, concert announcements. Obviously, I check Blabbermouth every day, TMZ every day, to see if any news and stuff. But you really got to look, see if there's concerts coming because it's hard. Nowadays it's different, bro. Like back in the day, even in the 2000s, 90s, probably in the 80s, like, you heard that on commercials, like
Radio.
when you're, radio, like
Yeah.
when you're listening to the rock station or whatever, they say, hey, blah, 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 and then, like, even when I was in my rap phase, like when I listened to hip hop, like radio, like they always came out with concert announcements and shit. When free tickets, call the number type thing, and you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's different than it was, like, even in the 2000s, like, it changed. So you really need to look, if you want to go to concerts, like, look and see yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's true there.
Thank you.
Because at that time I wasn't really aware of. Well, what it was is that it was my fault as well because I have not listened to radio since I moved here to Texas. Because a lot of the radio that we've seen so far, it's just been classic rock, filled with the same old songs we know by heart, blah, blah, blah. And
Roll All Night.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yep. Or a Home Sweet Home. Or
Hey, Art, that's a good show topic after we get done with this. Like, what are the most common songs you heard on the radio type thing? Or
songs that we consistently hear all the time.
I mean, that doesn't make them bad, but obviously, like, for me, like a Sad But True would be on the category for Metallica.
Or Enter Sandman.
Not Sad But True, Enter Sandman. Yeah, Enter Sandman would be. But anyways, back to Sabbath.
Yeah.
So, Ark, what would Sabbath be like your favorite? Like, would Iommi be your favorite, guitarist and all that type thing, or no?
No, not really. They're among my favorites, but they're not my favorite.
Right.
They're kind of like in a top, whatever, top 20 in that area. You want to know my 3 favorite songs? We kind of skipped over that.
Yeah, my bad. We are bad for that. Go ahead.
Number 3 would be Megalomania from Sabotage.
Yeah,
I really like that song.
That was a freaky song. I guess that song dealt with paranoia, I guess.
Well, actually, Megalomania is talking about a person that thinks of himself to be way more important than he really is. That's what megalomania means.
Yeah, megalomaniac in a way there.
My second one would be Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath from Tidal. I like that song a lot. And my favorite, and this is now, all these things can change 2 days down the road, is Wheels of Confusion, The Straightener from Volume 4.
Yeah.
I really like that song.
It is a good song there. It definitely is.
And to answer the other question, I have seen Black Sabbath. I saw them in their reunion tour in the late 90s. So
Yay.
I got to see them with Osborne.
Nice.
And they were on the bill with their opening bands were Incubus and Pantera.
Yeah. Of course, Pantera cites Sabbath as one of the big influence as well there. Remember, they covered Planet Caravan at the closing track of Far Beyond Driven.
Friend and I that were going, we got there a little late, so we missed a lot of the Incubus. But we saw Pantera, and then, of course, we saw Sabbath. And we stayed till the end.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
And the live album they released right after that tour, I forgot the name of it.
Reunion?
Yeah, had a couple of the songs from that venue that I went to.
Nice.
Dang.
Well, those shows were recorded in their hometown of Birmingham, England, for the record there.
No, I mean, on the record itself, it was credited as played in Dallas.
All right, there.
And
Yeah,
yes,
a lot of those live records are pieced together. They're not necessarily from
Right.
one show.
That's true there. Did many I think many live records had done that in the past there,
very few of them are one each show or tour. And even if
Right.
they are in the same place, they're usually out from a couple of shows. An example would be Made in Japan.
Oh yeah, from Deep Purple that we discussed last time.
I mean, what about the that Eagles one that came out?
Yeah, I think that
Hell,
was all done in one shot.
Australia?
well, no,
Are you
it's
talking about the Hell Freezes Over or
Yeah.
the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Hell Freezes Over one. Wasn't
I'm
it?
not too. I don't know what it was. I guess it was in some sort of a massive big venue that MTV had rented. I guess to do that there. The same thing they did with the Fleetwood Mac a couple years later.
The dance.
Hmm.
And if you've ever seen the video on that, that was obviously one show.
Absolutely, yeah. Now I put something in the Skype chat there. It's a photo of myself and Bill Ward from 1997 while Sabbath was on tour on Ozfest without him.
And you?
And me, that's me.
What the fuck?
Yep. You may remember about a couple years back, I used that as the thumbnail of a live show that we did some drama in.
I gotta put this up.
Yeah, definitely. It's a classic. It's one of my favorites there. Proud of that photo. Guy that was there, he wanted to meet Bill Ward along with me. I waited outside there. We saw a car come out, and we looked up there. It was Bill Ward. I was dressed in in my Oriental Spas t-shirt, my trench coat, boots, and
Oh my god.
that's right.
Did you get his autograph or no?
Yes, I did. I got
You still have
technical at least so technical
What?
ecstasy, and the booklet from a compilation called Black Sabbath, the Ozzy Osbourne years. Got that signed as well, and as well
Did
as
he
my
smell like
photo. Well, go ahead.
Did he smell like cannabis?
I couldn't. I don't think he did. No, I think he got off the drugs a long time ago. There.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. At that time he released a solo record titled "When the Ball Breaks," and they were doing songs from that.
What year
I guess
is it?
this was in 1997, and this was at the iRock
God, you look
iRock
the same
nightclub.
girl.
What?
You look this. I mean, your hair is a little bit more longer, obviously, back then because you.
Yeah,
got
that was
stuff there.
a long time ago. Yeah, that was my hair was way long back then. There. I later went home, got the autographs, put the autographs on my bed. I went back home, because it was very short distance from where I was living to that venue there. Got to saw my buddies Illegal play live there. Got in a conversation with one of their gal pals. We exchanged numbers, talked to her a couple times on the phone soon afterwards. Unfortunately, we wasn't able to go on a date because she lived on the other side of Michigan there, and plus she was constantly working, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know what happened to her. I hope she's not okay there. But either way, Bill Ward did a great set there. We talked soon afterwards there. Afterwards, people were asking, why wasn't he invited to the Sabbath tour? And I answered for them saying they didn't ask him. I mean, but at that time, early years before, he was in and out like an alcoholic cuckoo clock, according to one publication there. But they didn't realize Bill was going through a lot of health issues at the time. He had to go through a lot of getting off the drugs, getting off the alcohol. He just quit drinking, and he gets back with Sabbath, where there's lots of drinking was going on. Obviously, what's going to happen? Relapse time, bim. So,
Did you hear about this? About Prince? He's putting out his entire Purple Rain tour collection on DVD.
oh really? The Prince? You mean the artist Prince?
Yes.
Oh wow! Because I thought you meant a Prince Liar there for a second. I was like, wow, that's all. Damn.
Like Purple Rain. It's like Purple Rain tour.
You know what? There was a video, but you may remember there was a video cassette that was recorded on that was broadcast on local TV stations. I forgot what city it was, but that show, which was previously on video cassette, Prince of the Revolution Live. They've now remixed and remastered that show so it would sound better, and it's now available on vinyl. And you can thank the Prince's State for taking care of that mess. Because a lot of people were saying, there's no songs from Controversy, Dirty Mind, only one or two from 1999. It was all just Purple Rain Hereafter, But either way, back to Sabbath. Sabbath would finally record their new record, 13, in 2012, produced by Rick Rubin. It was without. Go ahead.
Well, what's the story behind the title for that album, since it was their 19th album?
I don't know. Good question there. It's just probably just. I'm not too sure what the story was. I have to look it up right now. It was their first to feature Ozzy Osbourne since Never Say Die back in '78.
Oh, that's the new. Well, it's some Ozzy news. All
right, there.
With Metallica too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
You go ahead and read it, because I'm looking up the 13, the album behind 13 there.
All right, so
basically,
let's see.
So Ozzy Osbourne recalls what touring with Metallica was really like.
Yeah, that was in 1986 when Master of Puppets was out and The Ultimate Sin was out, and both those records are doing massively well.
He called them nice bunch of guys. Mentioned James Hetfield many skateboarding mishaps. Mm-hmm. So I guess he skateboarded. James Hetfield, Metallica opened for Ozzy on the first American leg of a solo Ultimate Sin tour in '86. For Metallica's open leg of their 86-87 Damage Inc. tour, perhaps the joint portion of the track should have been called the Ultimate Damage Tour. Like you're saying, dressing room. Metallica was playing Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. It's pretty good,
Yeah, absolutely. Back there was Ozzy said in an interview, it was like, why did he approached one of the members of their management, asked why they playing Sabbath tunes all the time there, and he was like telling Ozzy, you're their idol. You and Sabbath would left an impression on them. They looked up to you and Black Sabbath. Wow. And by the way, the title 13, according to Geezer Butler, comes from the record company pressuring the band to write 13 songs, but they wanted to stop at 10. However, only 8 tracks made the final cut. Now there was a limited special edition that came out with those extra tracks included on a bonus CD, or as extra tracks, if I'm correct there. I was listening to the album at my previous job at the golf club there in the kitchen, and these are pretty good songs there. God Is Dead became a big hit on the radio there. And the song End of the Beginning will later be featured. In fact, Sabbath and Hole would be featured in the beginning of CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, probably Miami, I think it was, correct? Because there's different factions of that series there when you look at it.
I thought the openings to CSI had Who songs.
Yeah, but what they do is they have a little prelude storyline where the show begins with a scene in a coffee house, a couple of guys coming shooting up the place, then focuses on the detectives looking for clues, looking for evidence. They find a piece of paper with a bunch of names on it. I think we may have a last start. The screen goes to black, and then the show's theme starts. That's how they usually do it. Law and Order does it as well there. Miami Vice used to do it as well there. Many shows have done this. Police dramas. I'm thinking NCIS have done it as well there. They always do that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And one of the openings, as I mentioned, Black Sabbath doing End of the Beginning. in front of a crowded place. And I guess, one of the guys in the back was saying, I'm so glad Black Sabbath are back together again. It's like, really? Are you sure you was a fan back then? Because I often question people who say, like, they're fans of Black Sabbath, but they only know the main songs they play on the radio, like Iron Man, War Pigs, and Paranoid.
Right.
I would like to throw some little bit ditties at them. Those surprises, like, do you know this song if you're a Sabo fan? Like, I would play them either Turn Up the Night or Voodoo, or play them, Devil and Daughter, or When Death Calls, or Still Feels Good to Me. If they don't know those songs, they're like, gotcha, you're a follower. You're just a little sheep. Just like Pink Floyd said. No mind of its own, just follow along to what's trending there. I like to do that to people out there who say that they're big fans of this and that there, without really knowing the whole story behind the band itself. All right. And by the way, here's something else. From what I heard, 13 went to number 1 on the Billboard charts. Yeah, I'm looking it up right now there. Let me see there. All right. The single God is Dead, Loner, and at the beginning, release and promotion of the album. They received positive reviews from fans and critics. Praise was directed to the band's songwriting and performance abilities several decades after their formation. The album has been cited as a product of the loudness war, having a compromised sound quality as a result of an overly compressed dynamic range. At the 56th Grammy in 2014, the band won the Grammy Award for the Best Metal Performance for God is Dead. Commercially, 13 went to number 1 in several countries, including the States and the UK. It was later certified gold by the British Phonographic Industry, BPI, for selling 100,000 copies in the United Kingdom, and was also certified platinum in 4 countries. So Sabbath went to number 1. Yay! How about that? And apparently, Sabbath, that success of that album kind of inspired Judas Priest, to say, hey, we're not done yet. Because you remember, a couple of years before, they did the Epitaph tour that was supposed to have been their farewell tour.
Right.
Yeah. And they decided, hey, if Sabbath can continue, so can we. There we go.
And I think Sabbath was going to do a 20th, and for some reason didn't.
All right, there. Well, I guess, I don't know the situation with that there. Of course, probably then again, Ozzy, having the Parkinson's like he has, that's, you kind of figured something was up there when you see him perform with Sabbath throughout the last few years. All he did was just stand there holding on to his mic stand while singing, whereas Ozzy in the past would walk around, jump around a bit there.
Right.
Yeah, so that kind of gave us a clue what was going on there when you think about it. Now, we've seen lots of Sabbath tributes out there. There's a band called Mac Sabbath, which McDonald's characters sing, Black Sabbath tunes, but this to the tune of kind of like burgers and fries, that kind of stuff there. I saw them on YouTube a couple times there. There's Zach Sabbath featuring Zach Wilde from Ozzy's guitar player, and of course Black Label Society. In fact, one of his sons' his name is Sabbath. Believe it or not, the other's name is Hendrix there. And of course, there's all these other. There's Oz OZZ that I saw play at the Concert Pub a couple years back there as well. There was Crazy Babies. There was a Crazy Train, and of course, there's an all-female Sabbath tribute out there called Mistress of Misery. Let me get that. There we go. Mistress of Reality.
Mm.
And there's another one that's called themselves Evil Woman, named after the Sabbath single that was actually a Crow cover there.
Yeah,
That
and
was
that was
made,
actually released before the Sabbath album was.
yeah, the band, a U.S. band called Crow, wrote and performed that song. It became somewhat a big hit for them. And Sabbath was forced by their management label to record that song, and that became kind of the big single for them. And this was before Paranoid was recorded and released. It's only available on the UK version of their first album, whereas here in the States, it was replaced with Wicked World. Now the reissues have both those songs in their on their track list in there, meaning Wicked World and Evil Woman. All right. So, if anybody had their choice, would you love to see Sabbath do one last run on the road?
Ooh, I don't
I
even
say
think
yes.
they're able. I'd like to see it, but I don't think they're able.
Yeah.
Well, I know Tony Iommi's doing other things at the side there. And I know Geezer Butler had made an appearance with the group of Pop Delictica. And I think he had some sort of a project featuring, I think, I guess it was...
the Dead Song?
Dead something? Or I forgot the title of it, but I think it featured Matt Sorum, the drummer from Guns N' Roses, and the Cult involved. Of course, Ozzy was, I guess he's working on his record there, if I'm correct. I heard a couple times in a few news reports.
Purple Penis.
Purple Penis is the name of the album.
No.
Who has a purple penis? Vikings fan?
Yes.
Obviously there. He has a purple penis and blue balls to boot. Guy needs to get laid big time. Anyways. And Bill Ward, I guess he's come up with doing some, I guess for a while, I'm not too sure what he is doing there, but he shaved his head bald because, it's obviously he was going bald by the minute there. Yeah, he did. And you could tell right away that they were, that when they start to shave their head, they could tell right away they were starting to lose their hair. I mean, like Andrew Eldridge from the Sisters of Mercy, he was going through hair loss. Shawn Michaels, he was going through the same thing. Mathina Ziabs from the Scorpions, he started to experience hair loss, but he keeps wearing a hat when he goes on stage there, along with Klaus Meaning. And of course, we cannot forget, Rob Halford, the Judas Priest. He was, you look at some footage from 1988 when he moved to Arizona. He had his mustache, dark hair going on. You could tell right away that he was starting to go a little bit bald on the top there. So he decided to shave it all off. And he's kept it shaved ever since that, So,
well, that closes up Black Sabbath.
Yep, absolutely there.
And we're doing who Thursday?
Well, we're doing through it with Judas Priest.
No, let's do Zeppelin.
Oh, do Zeppelin? Okay, we'll do that then. We got to include them all because, like Sabbath, they were like one of the biggest bands out there that play a massive influence on heavy metal. I mean, I can tell you. Oh, by the way, we got to mention all the Sabbath cover songs that have emerged throughout the years. I mean, like there was this one female artist whose name escapes me, but she did a excellent cover of one of their songs called "Air Dance" from 1978 from Never Say Die. I'll find it out. I'll definitely put it in the chat there along with the original there. And we cannot forget also Pantera's cover of Planet Caravan, which would be a closed out Far Beyond Driven, which came out in 1994. That became a massively played on the radio there. And if it's to say that Pantera must have been joyous as fuck when they were offered to open for Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because who didn't love Black Sabbath at that time? I mean, like the Runaways, Lita Ford said she wanted to start a band after she saw Sabbath live. In fact, she briefly dated Tony Iommi in the early '80s there. But that relationship broke up when Iommi stole her drummer, Eric Singer, to be with Black Sabbath. And Eric Singer will go on to, of course, perform with Kiss.
Now we'll be doing a Raw reaction show live after this.
All right, there. I'll be doing my usual shopping as always. Here, it's like a schedule I have here. Whenever I get done with the music show, we write down what we list from the nearby HEB, and we go out and shop, and I come back there and see what's going on here. There,
HEB is the freshest grocery store.
Yeah, but it's a damn good store. A lot of good stores up there. A lot of good stuff they have up there, man. I should put. In fact, I'll probably get me some of those sausage biscuits that they have up there. I got to get those. I miss having those around the house there. All right. So this closes out our